How we doing, everybody? Kenny Ducey back here for Odd Shopper. It's been a little while. We had the pleasure of spending some time together at the U.S. Open, and now we have another Grand Slam on the cards. It's the Australian Open. We're heading into day 2 on Monday night / Tuesday morning. Depends on where you live. If you live in Australia, then it's just normal time. But if you're here in the United States, staying up late, waking up early to watch tennis. It is a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have tennis back. It's a pleasure to be back with you guys as well. I want to go through some of the picks that I like on day 2. We can go through the head-to-head here on the screen. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to start off with one that is, I wouldn't say near and dear to my heart, but I do feel very strongly about this man, and that is Diego Schwartzman. And no, I don't particularly like Diego Schwartzman. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but I don't like the way that he's been playing tennis lately. And let's just blow this up here. He's facing a young whippersnapper by the name of Krutykh. And I think this has terrible vibes for Diego Schwartzman. When you look through the way that he started the season here, obviously he just had a match in Auckland against Jensen Brooksby. He did not look good at all, and then retired apparently due to a groin injury or something in the lower body, something that seemed to be bothering him quite a bit. And that really just makes me like Krutykh even more here. When you look at Diego Schwartzman's last season, you see here he comes in on a massive losing streak. He has not won since the U.S. Open. And I would also like to remind people, very well that I was at the U.S. Open watching all these Diego Schwartzman matches. This match against Jack Sock, he was getting obliterated until Sock hurt his back, and then he never won another game. The Alexei Popyrin match, I believe he had to save something like 14 break points, maybe more, maybe over 20. It was ridiculous. It was not a very good match at all. It was an even worse match by Popyrin, and this match was one of the longest 3-set matches I think I've ever seen. It went over 3 hours. And then this Frances Tiafoe match, he was up a double break on Frances Tiafoe in the first set and went down in pretty easy fashion. And after that, had nothing to say for himself. And when you look through his season, I think that's the bigger thing. It's really hard for me to find a good win, right? You lost to Albert Ramos Vinolas on a hard court, which is really bad. Beating Karatsev at that point in the season was nothing special, and again, taking 3 sets to beat him and Molchan, ADF. It's just, you have to go really far down the list, at least on a hard court too, to look at the last time he won a match and you're like, okay, that was a good win for him. I guess ATP Cup, Stefano Tsitsipas, that was all the way a year ago. And even then, Tsitsipas was still kind of off his game after losing at Roland Garros, didn't really find himself until middle of last season. All that said, he is facing a very dangerous opponent here. I know Krutykh is only 188 in the world, but this guy's been absolutely ripping through the challenger circuit. You see some of the wins here in his last 10 matches. He's won 8 out of his last 10, and he's been obviously active this season. And I wanted to just go through really quick. 4-1 this season. Great start. That was the other thing I wanted to bring up. Look at who he beat in qualifying here. Stefan Kozlov, Gianluca Monger, and Denis Kudla, all very, very good opponents to beat in qualifying. Beat Kudla from a set down. Monger, obviously a consummate professional. He's always hanging around in qualifying at Grand Slams. He's had some nice results in the last couple of years. And then Kozlov as well. He's not amazing, but he's still a player that you would know. He's had ATP level wins, and it's a hard out. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you look at that start to the season, you look at last season, the way he ended in November, winning that challenger in Valencia, Milijevic, that was a big win for him. And then, obviously won a couple of, or another challenger and an ITF. He had a very good season. He's a very talented tennis player. He's rising fast. And this just has bad markings for Diego Schwartzman. I do not think that it's going to go very well for him, and I think he's going to lose outright. So I'm going to take Krutykh at plus 165 to win this match. I feel pretty good about it. I do not feel good about Diego Schwartzman whatsoever, especially, again, here on hard courts and at the Australian Open. Last couple of trips have not been very fun for him. So, and really he's only had those two nice results, right? In 2020 and 2018. And I don't see it going very well for little Diego. So we're going to go ahead and take Krutykh there. And before we get to our next pick, I do just want to let you in on a little, not a secret, but a fun promotion that we're doing. We'll go full screen here. You could bet $5 right now in the DraftKings Sportsbook and get $200 instantly. It's the best deal we've ever had, ever. with any sportsbook, the best deal any sportsbook's ever offered, a limited time offer. And the legal age for gambling is, in most states, 21 and over. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But please take advantage of that offer if you haven't already for new customers at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Details are in the link or the section below here on YouTube. Let's continue rolling here. Let's talk about some more picks if we can. And I want to move next to a guy that has a lot of experience here in Australia. His name is Aslan Karatsev. You may know him because he was a semifinalist here a couple of years ago. He had that meteoric rise into the top 20 or top 25 maybe. And he was a guy that no one knew until he stepped on the court here in Melbourne. He had a tremendous run to the semifinals where he even covered the spread against Novak Djokovic. And one of the guys he beat along the way was Grigor Dimitrov. And now that match was very bizarre. Dimitrov hurt his back in the third set somewhere there after Karatsev had struck back and taken the second. Looked like he might retire. He soldiered on, lost the match anyway. But you see the list. Diego Schwartzman got absolutely obliterated by Karatsev. This Gerasimov match was ridiculous, and obviously coming back from 2 sets to love down against Felix was a big deal as well. I don't know if you need a reminder of who this guy is, but that was a very special moment in time. Now, since then, he has really been lost. You see here, he was 18-31 last year. There were allegations that he was involved in match fixing, just a disaster of a season for him, especially considering he started the season by winning a 250 down in Australia and had a bunch of ranking points to defend and didn't defend them. He's now down in near the bottom of the top 100, 82 in the world. But what I want to highlight here is these matches that he played. Now, he lost to Town Greek Sport. That loss stings, but Greek Sport did go on to win in Pune earlier in the month. I wanted to talk about these other matches, the Pablo Andujar match, the Tim Van Rijtenven match, the Pedro Martinez match. I know that these are not a murderer's row of opponents, right? And Grigor Dimitrov, you would consider to be better than all of these opponents that Karatsev beat. But the thing about Aslan Karatsev, he's a very aggressive tennis player, plays first strike tennis, and he dictates the match, right? The way that he hits the ball, the weight of the shot, how hard he hits it, right? He just goes for winners every point. And so really who he's playing, unless you're playing an all-world defender, right? You're playing just a great tennis player who is just as aggressive and maybe cleaner. It doesn't really matter too much who the opponent is with him. If he's going to land his shots, if he's going to execute his game plan, he's going to win. And that's what brought him to the top, right? Or not the top, but the semifinals of the Australian Open was this guy just had a huge game. He's an excellent returner. He has a massive game. He hits these incredibly just tough to return ground strokes and unreturnable ground strokes to the back of the court. Last year what happened was he got really messy with it, right? He got messy. He was losing a bunch of matches. He was making a bunch of errors, and he was known as like an unforced error machine, right? That's how he lost a bunch of matches. He would have 40, 50 in Grand Slams, 70 unforced errors at times in 5-set matches. These 3 matches, he played incredibly clean tennis. And that's the one thing I want to highlight here. Against Van Rijtenven, a very, very solid player, a very big server, did excellently returning the ball, sticking with it. And the biggest thing for me is at times Karatsev has had issues holding onto his own serve. The serve looked good. And again, he really has not had too many issues on serve. So I do think that this is a good spot to play Karatsev at plus 200 against Grigor Dimitrov. A guy that we haven't just seen a lot of this year. Just to pull up Dimitrov real quick. Obviously, playing an exhibition is just the least you can do here. He showed up at the United Cup. He did take a set off of Tsitsipas and played a close match there. But then, the win over David Goffin, I don't know how much that means. And he didn't play that much last year either. We last saw him in Paris, losing to Carlos, and then he had an exhibition. So I think Karatsev is going to be the guy in better form here, right? He's a little more tuned up for this tournament. And again, while Dimitrov does have some nice results here in Australia, 2 of the last 3 years has ended in him just winning 1 match and leaving. I think this is a trouble match for him. And again, I know that you could talk about Dimitrov got his revenge on Karatsev when he wasn't dealing with the back injury in San Diego. I would argue that Karatsev was already kind of cooked at that point, not playing good tennis, got his ranking points, got his money, was very relaxed. So I think this is a good spot to play Aslan Karatsev, and I'll be doing so at a price, of plus 200. Let's talk about some more matches here. Let's see if we can fit 2 more in, because I do want to talk about a couple of more matches. This one I will talk about very briefly here. I'm going to be on John Isner at -125, and this scares me a little bit because he's 8-0 against Adrian Mannarino, and here's the one match that Mannarino was able to win was after 2 games at Wimbledon 2013. John Isner had to retire. And yes, another thing that's scary here is that John Isner only played 1 match this year. He's only played 1 match since Paris, which was October of last year, or maybe November. I don't know. It was November 1st and October 31st. So I was right. Really, I was right twice. We haven't seen him a lot, right? That's scary. The loss to Barrere, that's scary. Even though I did think Barrere played pretty well, I watched that match. And, while Mannarino has lost 4 of the last 6 matches, he did play an epic with Borna Goyo. He looked pretty good in that match. Also beat Federico Coria at the United Cup. I don't know how much that means. But the one point that I want to make here again about John Isner is John Isner is actually a much more dangerous tennis player when he hasn't played a lot versus when he has played a lot. These are the moments that I like to target Isner, because you even see right here on the screen, he took 2 weeks off after Atlanta, comes out at Cincinnati rather, firing rockets. He is a guy that is very old. He's over the hill at this point. I believe he's 35 years old. Nope, that's not how years work. 37. He's 37 years old, and his body just can't take that much tennis. And what happens is he plays himself into form, and everyone gets all excited about him. I mean, maybe it's just me. And what happens is he will drop off significantly once he starts to have matches under his belt, sets under his belt. When he is fresh, he is still proven to be a very difficult out. And I think that we'll see one of the better levels from Isner. I will again stress here that the courts are very, very fast. Dunlop balls and these courts combining to make for some very quick conditions, almost like grass. I wouldn't call them grass, but they're very, very fast. So that should help Isner quite a bit here. And while it does normally help Mannarino, Mannarino is a guy that likes to play with some pace, absorb some pace. Mannarino's just not really going to get into many baseline exchanges against John Isner. It's going to be about how well John Isner can serve, and I think that's pretty well. John Isner is a guy with incredible amount of experience in best of 5. He's beaten Adrian Mannarino every time he's played him. I think that plays a big factor here, and you can see on the screen here on our sort of foreign tennis site. Yes, there are people betting on Adrian Mannarino. The line has moved a little bit in his favor. I still do like Isner here as the short favorite, a guy that this is a very good buy low opportunity on, again, a tried and true, trustworthy best of 5 player, especially in a match like this, which is just, it doesn't do much for me. I don't think Mannarino is going to have what it takes. Last match I want to talk about here, I'm going to be on Richard Gasquet. I got him at -135. I'd play him up to -145. And I see people, again, you see the line moving on Ugo Humbert. It's obviously a sexy bet, right? To take Humbert because, he is a younger player. Gasquet just won in Auckland, and that was 2 days ago. And Humbert is a guy that just is hungry for points at Grand Slams. I will contest here that Humbert has lost. Oops, I dropped my mouse. That's what happens. Humbert is a guy that has, Humbert is a guy that has lost 4 straight matches, and you want to go forward, not back. And every time he's been given an opportunity in a Grand Slam, he's gotten so many wild cards. We saw last year at the U.S. Open losing to Benjamin Bonzi. I mean, this is just, I think we've seen this movie before with Humbert, taking the first set in both of these matches and then just losing out. He cannot handle the pressure. He cannot handle the nerves associated with the Grand Slam, even at the French Open. He's just never had success, or a lot of success anyway, in best of 5. And while Gasquet may be a little tired, I just want to reiterate that Gasquet played an absolutely insane level in Auckland. I mean, he deserved that title. He came back from, he was down a break in the 3rd set and then down break points for a double break, comes back and beats Cam Norrie, one of the 15 best tennis players in the world. And I mean, even against Goffin, just rocketing that backhand. I think this is bad news for Humbert. And I don't think that Gasquet is going to make a deep run here in Australia after what happened in Auckland. He's going to be tired, but I think he's got enough in the tank to win this match against Humbert, a guy that is really struggling, has not played a lot, lost in Adelaide qualifying to Yibing Wu, didn't even take a set off of Chris Eubanks. I'm sorry, man. Like, I don't see it. I know a lot of people want to fade a guy coming off of a title win. It's usually pretty smart. Last night with Sun Woo Kwan, he lost to, ironically, Chris Eubanks. But I don't think Humbert has what it takes to take this match. And again, when you consider the head-to-head, you consider the history here, Gasquet has just proven to be a better player and have better nerves than Hugo Humbert. And I think he wins this match. And if Gasquet loses this match, you can live with it. You can live with taking the guy that owns the 2-0 head-to-head, the guy that has played better tennis, that's played tennis in general lately, over Hugo Humbert. So that's where I'm going to leave it. 4 picks. I write these down on paper like it's the Stone Age. Aslan Karatsev, Alexei Krutykh, Arshad Gasquet, John Isner. 4 money line bets that I feel pretty good about. And I'll be back to talk about day 3 of the Australian Open. We're off and running here, and I'm looking forward to a very fun and profitable fortnight here in Melbourne. And I'm looking forward to being with you guys. So until tomorrow, so long.